Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of our Yu-Gi-Oh podcast. My name is Kai Locke. I'll be our host for the day. We have two other people with us. They'll introduce themselves in a moment. And throughout this video, we'll be watching some DNET's gameplay and talking about YCS Philadelphia. So, Doug, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, my channel is DZF. I'm the guy playing and probably will be playing for the next 30 or 40 so minutes. Um, I started playing this game when I was in grade school, but only recently got competitive. Recently being since September. I'd always been into the competitive scene as far as looking at it, but I only splurged into going into it when I built Infernities. Thus the name Infernity Walrus is Infernity Walrus. Right now I'm playing Secret Village of the Spellcasters Troll. And basically, I just play random decks. And I don't take the game too seriously. Yeah. And I also blog for TCG Player, which Kelly does too. And that kind of stuff. Take it away, Joe.
Alright, my name is Joe Kleitchen. My YouTube name is DuelMaster12047. I've been playing this game since Bandai first owned it. Yes, I'm an old guy. I've only been in the competitive scene for about 2.5 years now. My main competitive deck is Disaster Dragons, but I do play a little bit of everything. Depending on the deck I'm using really depends whether I take this game seriously or not. For the most part. I'm not a blogger. I'm just that guy that a lot of people like to come to for advice, especially when it deals with dragons. And yeah, that's about it about me.
Alright, and so to wrap this up, a little bit about me. I got back into this game in 2008 playing Plants. Basically played Plants for about 3 years and then kind of quit it when the ban list wasn't very kind to it. Been playing Dragunity for about a year solid now since it came out. And I'm stuck on that, and as Doug mentioned earlier, I also write for TCG Player. And I've done a little bit of writing for Alter Reality Games. This project started up as a way to express some ideas and as a different way to communicate our thoughts on this game without having to put it in writing form and get it out there into the YouTube community. Hopefully break through. There are a lot of YouTubers or YugiTubers as they're called out there, and hopefully we can break through that and become somewhat popular. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about YCS Philadelphia today. Our opinions, predictions, what's going to be good, what isn't, what's going to go down, all that fancy stuff. So I don't really care who talks first about it. So whatever your thoughts are.
I'll start with
Okay.
I'll start with this one, since I'm probably closer to it than everybody else is. Since I live in New York, I pretty much know what the meta is of this area and pretty much down through almost to North Carolina. I don't know what Florida really is right now. For one, we're probably going to see a lot of Dino Rabbit considering it's taken the last 2 YCSs. Chaos Dragons are going to be big. Inzectors as well. I don't think we're going to see very many windups. Herotics and Dark Worlds, I think, are going to be the biggest 2. What's going to take it, however, I believe it's actually going to be a rogue deck.
I think I should mention, because I've been playing around with Evols a lot lately. They definitely got a boost from getting diversity, but I don't think they're going to take it. If you guys remember back when Dino Rabbit was first made, obviously, as Joe just mentioned, they took the last 2 YCSs, but it took them a while to take the YCS. And the first championship that they were actually legal for, they didn't make much of a dent. That was back when Plant Synchro wasn't horrible. And I'm not sure who won the first tournament they were in, but it wasn't Dino Rabbit. They didn't make as much as an impact as people had suspected. So I think Evil is the same way, and I can almost say that Heriotix, or however you pronounce that, I think it's the same way, that they're new and people there's no like universal build for them yet. There's no skeleton for them. So I don't think that they're going to take the championship. But yeah, I agree that a rogue deck is going to take it because people just don't know how to side against rogue decks. That's why Dark Worlds won that championship, was because people just weren't ready for it. Decks that people aren't ready for are the good ones. It's also really important to be able to play power cards like Skill Drain or be able to work around Skill Drain. Royal Decree is really good right now because people are running chainable traps. But I think it's really going to be something that I don't think it's going to be heroes. I know people are like obsessed with heroes because they were at one point a rogue deck, but they're not a rogue deck anymore. And a rogue deck's strongest asset is the surprise factor. So you need a deck that's playable and has a surprise factor. And I think that's what's going to take it, is something that can be really consistent and can totally catch people off guard.
What do you guys
I
think
think
of the new insectors, though? I mean, I know that you guys are talking a lot about rogue decks specifically, but new builds of the meta decks as well are something to worry about.
well, with the new Injectors, it's like if you use that final injection card, unless you're running a lot of the equip spells, like Caliber and a lot of those, or even Gigamantis, you're giving up your monster count. So it's going to be one of those cards that is going to be a lot harder to use. This is going to be their first true test with the new cards in them. If they're even using them, they might just stick with what they're based off of and what they're used to seeing.
Personally, in my Inzektor experience, or the new Inzektor experience, I found that Gruff, he's good, but I don't think he's made as much of an impact as was expected. Basically, he just gets out, he gets out a 5-star exceed. That's pretty much all he does. Personally, I still prefer the Hopper Sword build, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. He's really good at getting out 5 ranks, but I don't think there's as many good turn 1 rank 5s that are usable right now. So I just don't think he's that good right now. Maybe in the future when we see better rank 5s, he's pretty good. But right now I just don't think he makes that much of an impact. Exostag is a really good card. Um, Taking control of a monster is really good, especially against Chaos Dragons. So I think Inzektor players that can shape their decks for what's coming now are going to be able to adapt. I don't think the standard build is going to be as good anymore.
Yeah,
That was-
Exca is pretty ridiculous. You can like just take people's Stardust right out of their graveyard.
Do you have the sniffles?
Sorry, guys, about that.
What have your guys' experiences been on Heretics though? Like, have you faced them recently?
Heretics I actually have dealt with. A teammate of mine is actually building them. And back and forth between what I've seen with the deck, it really depends, A, the player, and B, their setup.
Yeah.
Because considering they don't have Gustav Max right now, which just creates the big OTK that they have over in the OCG, and a lot of them are not smart enough to deal with running more than one different level 6 vanilla monster. They like to sit there and play around with, oh, look, this one looks cool, so I'm going to run 3 of this one. So therefore, if it gets chain disappearance, all of them get hit, not just the one.
Is that how that ruling works? If it gets chain disappearance, because it has 0 attack, does
Because it has 0 attack, they all get removed.
wow, that'd be kind of funny actually.
That's why my teammate and I have been sitting back and discussing, look, run 3 different ones, therefore you don't have that issue.
Mm-hmm. My experience with them, I've had 2 major experiences, or I wouldn't say I've only dueled them twice, but the 2 experiences that I constantly have every single time are that they either do absolutely nothing, sit with cards in their hand, maybe set MST or something, or they special summon like crazy and just OTK you. I think it's a deck that's kind of like Dark Worlds in that they steal game ones a lot, but the side deck, I don't know. If you throw them those light imprisoning mirrors, it kind of destroys them. So I
Oh, of
think
course.
light and dark decks in general are really easy to side against just because they have a card that literally just stops everything they do. Or even I see people attacking like Mask of Restrict, and while personally I don't believe in that because it doesn't do it only is good against that one matchup. I think that Light Imprisoning Mirror is definitely a really good card, and I've been testing too in pretty much every side deck I've run, and it pretty much just shuts them down because they can't like do anything to you, or a well-timed bottomless just to get rid of their first summon. It's really important, kind of like Inzectors. Getting rid of the first summon pretty much destroys them. So, my 2 cents there.
And plus, Light Imprisoning Mirror also hits multiple decks. It's not just a onesie deck.
That's good. Yeah.
Did you just draw into that other field spot?
Yeah, I did.
A deck that I think is probably going to make some noise at Philly, though, is probably going to be Six Sams. We haven't heard much about them this format. Considering that structure deck's getting ready to come out for them.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see their new Xyz monster.
It's
Yeah.
just like Grandmaster, except if it gets destroyed, the materials that it has underneath it get added back to the hand. They just kind of be special summon that turn.
Wait,
Oh,
really?
okay.
Yeah, it's a little broke.
What's its attack?
I think it's 21-8.
That's really good. Can't get any long duels because that's impossible. Okay, so that's really good because it gets that effect when it's destroyed just in general, right?
By an
So, like-
opponent's card effect. Just like
Yeah.
Grandmaster.
That's really good because it's rank 4, right? Or is it
Yep.
rank 3? Okay, 4? Yeah, that's way too good. If you get back like double Kaizen with that, like...
That's what I was thinking. Double Kazan,
Yeah.
overlay. Oh,
No.
you want a warning it? Thank you.
Gosh, like that people warning Light and Darkness Dragon, they get the damage. What are the decks? So, yeah, I think Dino Rabbit, I wouldn't even consider it rogue at this. I think at one point it's gonna become rogue because after that ruling with priority, everybody had said, "Oh, it's dead," because obviously, if Effect Valor can ruin one card in your deck, the whole deck is destroyed. But I think they really came back and showed people that they still have a fighting spirit, taking the top spot and the second place spot here in America. I think that people just underestimated them, and that kind of goes back to what I was saying with if people don't expect it, then you're gonna have a better chance of winning. People stopped siding stuff in for Dino Rabbit and started siding in for stuff like Heroes and Inzectors, and then that allowed Dino Rabbit players to just push through.
Well, another thing you also have to put into consideration is that now they're starting to run Safe Zone in Dino Rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, you can't sit there and go Valor all the time. You can't change his appearance. You're sitting there on a new level of play.
Yeah, Dino Rabbit's definitely the oddball of this format. It's pretty much the only defensive deck. Everything else is extremely aggressive.
Well, Dino Rabbit is aggressive, but it also has outs.
I feel like they're similar to decks like Dragonity, where they're gonna throw a negation card on the field, or even like Samurai, they throw a big negation card on the field and they set up back row, and then they pop out more of those negation monsters and beat you down with them.
I'd almost say that Dino Rabbit is just a better version of Six Sams for the reason that, well, there's two distinct differences, and that's like popular turn ones for Dino Rabbit are Summon Lagia set 4, right?
Mhm.
Well, Six Sams, wow, that really sucks. Six Sams usually they swarm the field but don't have much back row, so you're seeing kind of two different sides. One of them gets one monster and then just sets 4, and that pretty much wins the duel. That opening is really hard to overcome unless you draw Heavy Storm and they don't have Starlight Road. But I almost say Six Sams, though, they can do more damage with their huge push. They only need one turn to just get through there. I think their turn one setup might be a little bit better than Dino Rabbit's because Sheen is just way too good. And the decks I've been playing, they side in regular Sheens, and I think he's good because I'm sure both of you know the ruling that if the card they activate is negated, they can still activate another one, but they
Yep.
can only activate one per turn. But I think that's still really powerful because basically you're limiting them to one card per turn and not the first one because they're probably going to negate the first one. I think that's just way too powerful, this format. And I don't think people expect that many beaters on the field. Like that's all they do is just throw out beaters, and that's why they're pretty good.
But also, you got to look at Dark Worlds too. All their effects activate in the graveyard, and once they activate that skill drain,
Yeah, I think the main step ahead that Dark Worlds have is that Shadow Imprisoning Mirror really doesn't do anything to them because they can still get Greffa. All they need is that one Greffa in graveyard and they're good, which is why I think we're seeing an increase in play in Bottomless Trap Hole, um, like Kaiko the Ghost Destroyer. I've been seeing people play him, and I think it's a really smart idea because, I mean, it gets rid of Hornet, it gets rid of Greffa, it gets rid of just all this random stuff, and I think that's really important. Is a lot of these decks we're seeing these days, they rely on like one card, and while they have other cards supporting that, they really rely on that one card. I mean, Zectors need Hornet to win,
yep.
although I think Ladybug is kind of making it that they can run other stuff, but in general, they need Hornet to win. And then Dark Worlds, they really need Greffa to like win. They can play without him, but I feel that they need Greffa to pull out like the win. So just hitting the right cards at the right time, I think, is really important. Which is why I think at this point in the game, it really is going to come down to who's the better player and not who's running Dino Rabbits. We saw a format where there were enough people playing Dino Rabbits that they would just take top spots just because of the abundance of people playing them. Where now I think we're really going to see the better players come out on top, regardless of deck.
how do you guys think Chaos Dragons are going to do this weekend?
I think seeing the last YCSs, they were like under the radar, but I think I've seen a lot of people playing them and stuff. They're really good because they can just throw like several 2500 attack monsters out like every turn, and they keep major hand advantage, which is something that most Dragon decks aren't able to do. I think that they're definitely a contender, and you really got to watch. You got to be siding for them. I think Light Imprisoning Mirror does the trick. I don't think you really need Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. I mean, because the only major threat in their deck is Red Eyes Darkness Metal, that Shadow Imprisoning effects. But I think if you can side right for it, or if you can just, I mean, I'd be siding Torrentials, Bottomlesses, Warnings, etc., etc. You really need to not have them set up that soft lock of Red Eyes and Light Pulsar.
Yeah, I feel like it's a really, and I don't mean to say this like a bad thing, but it is a pretty sacky deck. It's it's really easy to open up with a broken hand that's hard for any deck in this format to stop. And a lot of that's because of Future Fusion, a lot of that's because Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon is at 3. It's very easy to win on the second or third turn if the opponent doesn't draw enough defensive cards or they don't have Gores, basically.
Hmm. What do you think of Future Fusion and then though? I know we've seen mixed results. That one guy, I'm not sure if he's the one that won it or if he's the guy that just came in second, but he wasn't running Future Fusion. Personally, I think Future Fusion is just like 5 Foolish Burials, so I don't know why you wouldn't run it. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it was the guy in Europe who didn't run it, which I don't understand.
It's all. You guys are probably going to hear me say this quite a bit now. Player preference. Some players like Future Fusion because it allows you to get that ditch to the graveyard.
But why wouldn't you like it?
And then there's other players that rather deal with the hand advantage
Yeah.
than dealing with those type of cards.
Oh, because Future Fusion. Well,
it's kind of a
Because it's a
Plus,
minus,
it's a onesie, so therefore you're taking also the risk of
drawing at late game.
yes.
Hmm.
Or in example, Chaos Dragons, they run so many light swords it can be milled out of the deck.
hmm
Oh, that's true. I guess there's space issues with that as well.
yeah, like they don't run many. Like their deck is mostly monsters, so they got to make that decision if they really want to run that. What card are they going to take out, and if that's going to ruin consistency issues? Personally, I think it's good because I think it works a lot like Shard of Greed, where you activate it, and then your opponent kind of they have to get rid of it. Most decks can't just deal with a random 5,000 attack point beater. Like,
I mean, personally, I am a Disaster Dragon user, so I mean, I look at this game a little differently than most people. Future Fusion, even if you MST it or not, I got my pluses that I wanted off of it. The 5,000 beat stick is just an extra plus on top of it.
mm,
Well, that's why you have to take it off the field because you can't. Like, it's bad enough that you've got your graveyard developed at that point, and it's just like that extra card is the straw that breaks the camel's back.
yeah,
Unfortunately, when you do MST it, you're resolving their. You're making a 1-for-1, basically.
Yep.
I don't know. I think out of all the top decks right now, like if we're looking at, it's hard to say what top decks are because there hasn't been a tournament with Galactic Overlord stuff. But I think when we look at it, the reason KS Dragons like are sort of easy to side against now is because out of all of them, their build is the most parallel. Like all the builds are pretty much the same. Whereas in Zectors, you don't know if they're running Ladybug or not. Um, Even like the Lightsworn variant of Chaos is like really out there and stuff. You just don't know. Where Chaos Dragons, I mean, you know you're gonna be running 3 Light Pulsar. You know they're gonna be running 2 or 3 Chaos Sorcerers. You know they're gonna be running BLS. You know they're gonna be running Rykos. You know basically what they're gonna be running. I think that's a little bit. You can be more prepared. You know if they're gonna open up with one set card that it's most likely a Ryko, and you know you just kind of can anticipate what they do a lot better. Where these decks that have like random cards in there or have space to tech things, you don't know what they're gonna do. They could be teching 3 Smashing Grounds main. I think Dino Rabbit is now turning into one of those decks where you just don't know what they're gonna be running. You don't know if they're gonna be running Snowman Eater, Smashing Ground, how many lances, Forbidden Chalice. Like there's so much tech space in Dino Rabbit because the basic engine is only like 9 or so cards. We could say 13 because the tour guide engine. But basically, the Dino Rabbit deck is just several engines all working together.
Yep.
You guys think we're gonna see Card Guard D there?
Card D you probably will see quite a bit of, especially if there's going to be a few Chainburn decks.
hmm
But like Doug said, though, you could also see, we're also starting to see a lot more decrees. So if they do that decree at the right time,
Those 3 back rows don't make much of a difference then.
exactly, they could do that whole 5 back row, and all of a sudden you chain decree, and they go, well, there goes all that.
I'm honestly surprised that more Insector players don't run Trapstun.
Yeah. I think they need to get that that big push that they make with all their 3 stars and stuff. I think they need to get that off. I don't even know what this does. Okay, we'll just get out of there. I think they really need to make that big push, and I'm kind of surprised that we don't see more trap stuns. But I think the main issue with stuff like random tech cards like this that we can say are good, if people don't top with them, we just assume that nobody's running them. But there could be somebody somewhere running trap stun that's doing amazing, but maybe he can't go to YCSs. You just don't know. But I think you need to explore your options and don't just take the standard build and be like, this is my build. This is what I'm gonna run. You gotta try things. And even if you fail trying things at locals, like just random stuff, like there's so many other Inzektor cards that people just deem not good. Like there's that new 2000 attack point guy that I think is kind of interesting. But like if somebody doesn't top something with him, and then people just don't think of it. Like let's take Inzectors with swords and hoppers. Like when that originally happened, that was like a big deal. Nobody even like had thought the sword or hopper was like a viable card, but that one guy proved that it was, and then people were like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna run this build." people like joining bandwagons. People don't like making original decks, and it's not even like original decks. It's original tech. Pretty much the top decks have been defined at this point. There's like 5 or 6 of them, but what does your build have that other builds don't? You have to take what your build does good, change it a little bit to make it do what it does better or differently than other decks. You have to stand out, I think, at this point.
Well, to quote Kevin Tuart on this, and obviously you guys know who that is. At least I would hope.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I believe he's like in charge of the TCG. I'm not sure what his actual position is. He's like the
I know
head.
who you're talking about, though. I just felt like trolling for a second.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of who exactly he is. Well, whatever. Anyways, he posts on Pojo a lot, and one of the things he said recently, or maybe I think it was last month, he was talking about how the price of tour guide and people's problems of getting it is more to blame on the players than on Konami. And his reasoning is that so many people, they don't play a card until someone else says it's good. And that's how so many people, that's basically how like the price skyrockets on something, is because someone else does good with it, and then they go, oh, it's a good card. Well, it was always a good card, it's just you didn't realize it beforehand.
Well, let's take another card into perspective. Moving into last month to now. Well, last 2 months into now. Max C. A few months ago, it was what, well over $100 card?
I think it was it over 100 or was it like at 100?
No, it was like 120 at its peak.
I just bought 2 of them today for $60
A piece or together?
together.
Yeah.
So it makes you kind of wonder, what's the difference between a few months ago and now?
Hype.
Hmm.
The wind-up hype, pretty much.
Well, not only wind-ups, but look how much special summoning Heroics do.
That's, yeah, well,
I wouldn't be surprised to see Max C shoot up in price after Heroics.
I mean, a lot of people aren't thinking about the future of decks. This is our big first tournament with Galactic Overlord being released. Compared to past sets where, we've had a few months to build them up and then test it all out. My version of Heroics, I don't think we're going to see them big until almost September.
depends
So they'll
on...
start making a lot of noise due to not having Gustav Max.
Wow,
BLS is a
that's
warrior.
smart. Yeah. So good.
Yeah, Gustav Max, it's actually on the poll for V-Jump right now. For their next promo, or not for V-Jump, but for Show and Jump.
I voted for the Dragon.
Yeah, I want to vote for that one too, because I don't
Is that
want...
the like purple guy?
It's the Ice Dragon.
Oh, Snow Dragon?
Yeah.
Snowdust Dragon? Yeah, I think he's pretty cool.
Well, because thanks to Kelly, he released what pack that big tree was coming in. I forgot the name of it.
The alpaca guy.
Yeah, it's a giant tree.
Cool.
That's the way it looks. Well, there was actually a card in that set that actually dealt with that dragon. It was a very small version of the Snow Dust Dragon, which, when that thing was destroyed, all of your other face-up monsters got one
Ice Connor, I think it's
one
called.
ice counter. It was either destroyed or left the field. One of the two. And even if it just left the field, okay. Normal summon it. Synchro with it. Right there's 4. Special it again. Do something else with it. And right there you automatically have 8 ice counters.
Yeah.
If you have a good enough field to do so.
I think Snowdust Dragon, correct me if I'm wrong, but can it special summon itself by removing ice counters or something?
By removing 4 ice counters.
Yeah. And he's like at 28, so I mean...
Yeah, 2800 beat stick.
So
it
yeah,
seems
about the
that.
heroics. You
Go
can go
ahead.
ahead, Doug, if you were going to say something.
Damn it, go ahead.
No. We just got kind of off topic there for a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think in this format, and especially at Philly, now more than ever, I think this was lost a while back, but I think it's really important to be able to put out huge monsters. Earlier, we were seeing an effect-based format. Konami obviously wanted XYZs. They pushed them. Uh, Trish was kind of like the main huge thing that everybody was running, but the XYZs are generally small monsters with good effects. But I think now when we see Chaos Dragons, Heroics, stuff like that. We see things that, and even Heroes, we see things that put 3,000 attack point monsters on the field. You kind of want to just have the bigger monster at this point, almost. It's it's not like it's whoever can get the biggest monster and keep it on the field. I think that's why Chaos Dragons are so good because they don't just have one huge monster like the Shining or BOS. They just consistently put out huge monsters. And I think a lot of decks really just can't deal with that.
And another card we're actually starting to see a lot starting to pop up in Chaos Dragons, especially, is a card that fell off the radar from Photon Shockwave and the tin before it, Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon,
Hmm.
the anti-Xyz monster. He gets around Utopia, Zen Mines, all the good ones that everybody fronts about.
Oh, Doug. That's so mean.
Yeah,
It,
and Joe didn't see the duel, but I just faced Chaos Dragons with like spellcasters, and like I won because basically what I did, like this is why I don't think they'll do that great at Philly because the guy wasn't that great a player, and he once they got rid of his Red Eyes Darkness medal, he had gone through so much hand advantage that I could just take the game from there. I think
well,
a
one
lot of
thing,
people are playing Chaos Dragons because it's pretty cheap to make, but you have to be good at using it. Like you can't. There's no really herp derp deck this format besides maybe Inzectors, but that's just a personal hatred. But I think you really have to be a good player.
well, a lot of people think that dragons are one of the easiest decks to pick up and learn how to use. But learning that you misplay one item, you jack up your entire deck. One serious misplay actually takes you about 4 to 5 turns to recover from. And that's a lot of recovery turns compared to other decks.
Yeah,
I always find that knowing when to summon Red Eyes is the toughest thing to do in that deck.
It's not even just Chaos Dragons with that issue. It's also Disaster.
it's any dragon. Red Eyes, because they're all basically central around Red Eyes.
I mean,
Like,
if you're going first and you have them in hand, that is no problem.
hmm
But if your opponent has like 4 back row, you can kind of sit there and go, oh, do I really want to summon it right now? And get warninged.
and I think it's really important for them to set up that soft lock with Red Eyes and Light Pulsar, because while it's just like a soft lock, it's not like I mean you can get through it. It's definitely possible to get through it. I think setting it up creates so many dead plays that your opponent has, like Torrential is dead, Dark Hole is dead. These major power cards that everybody runs become dead with that soft lock. I think that's why it's just so good because you have to put a stronger monster than I like to destroy like Red Eyes and then banish it or Monster Reborn it. That's always fun when you Monster Reborn it. But like you just can't let them keep both of those on the field. And I think Red Eye is more a threat than Light Pulsar. Light Pulsar is just good because it's easier to special summon, but that's why the deck is just so good because putting huge monsters that never leave the field is definitely a good thing.
So, and I just want to double check on how long we've been talking. We did start at 10:35, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
we basically have some wrap up time. Okay, anybody watching this is probably going to point out that I just attack with Serato. I'm sorry, but I don't want to type that. Uh, I don't want to type that whole turn back. I think we should, at this point, seeing we have like 4 minutes left, right? Yeah, math fails me. Yeah, that'd be like 40 minutes. I think we should basically just wrap up or talk about what we think will win and what we think people think will win, but won't actually win. So I think will win is yes. I think some rogue deck is gonna win. I think Dino Rabbit actually has a pretty good chance, but that I don't think card D is gonna have as big as success as it's supposed to. It's gonna have a huge showing. That's undeniable because people want to test it out, and people are gonna be running three of it. But one thing you should look at is that the set just came out, so are people gonna have the money to drop on three? And I just don't think in our meta they're that good. If you look at the OCG meta, they run that instead of tour guide, but we have tour guide, and our meta is a lot faster. So if you don't have that setup with three back rows, is card D really that good? Late game, it's really horrible. So I don't know if we'll see as big a showing as people are expecting. And what I think that's gonna cause is its price to drop. People are gonna buy it, and then somebody's gonna top with it, and then it's gonna skyrocket again. So if the price drops, personally, I think I'm gonna pick up a couple copies because it can't stay dropped forever.
Joe, closing thoughts?
No, I don't have any.
You don't have a prediction, right?
I think honestly the winning deck might actually be Dark Worlds
Again,
again.
Always Dark Worlds. Personally, I think it's going to be a Relic deck that spams rank 6, especially Gaia Dragoon and Photon Streak Bouncer. That's just my dark horse pick, maybe. But we'll see.
Photon Strike Bouncer actually is a really good card.
I mean, if they put it on the field first turn, it does put you in a pretty tough position.
It's an effect veiler that burns.
It's like a giant Logia. Or Doka.
Dolka, yeah.
Well, the best
I
part
think-
about Strike Bouncer also gets around Logia and Dolko because it just runs them over.
Nom 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 nom.
Yeah, I think with Strike Bouncer, he's kind of where like comparing him to Dolka. Dolka is effect based with a mediocre attack, whereas Strike Bouncer is attack based with I wouldn't say mediocre effect 'cause it's a good effect, but I think just the fact that he can just run over things is a really strong thing to have. Like Dolka just can't do that. Somebody that, for me, that plays the balls all the time, like you just can't run over things sometimes. And
I mean, now you have to look at this issue too. You're especially with Evolzars. You're starting down a Utopia. What do you really have to run over it?
yeah, that's why I don't play this deck competitively because, like, I have like a smashing on here, but yeah, once they put something on the field, I just really can't get over it. I think somebody needs to figure out how to run this deck correctly, and personally, I don't think correctly is running it with the like 6 stars and 5 stars. I just don't think they're that good. But I think there needs to be. I think we need to get Black Corn, the XYZ, because I think he'd really make this deck a lot more consistent. If you don't know what he does, you just off the top of my head, you just send an opponent's monster to the graveyard and you take 1,000 damage, but it has to have less than 2,100 attack points. So it gets over like Zen mains and stuff. But I think the most powerful thing right now with this is Evo forcing Najasho, and then getting 2 volcanoes, making 2 rank 4s, and then the rank 4s you make are the Symphony. Sorry, this guy's probably pissed, but you make the Symphony Maystroke, and you make Photon Paleo Operative, and then you turn the monster face down and you flip it back face up. It's minus 600 attack points, and then you just take it out. But I think that's really Evol's only way of taking out big monsters, and it's kind of situational. So personally, I haven't found anything to take out monsters already on the field. You can take out stuff that before it hits the field, but taking off on-field stuff is really hard, which is why down route players are main decking Snowman Eater.
And plus, I'm also seeing a lot of Dino Rabbit users main decking Safe Zone now. Also with
Yeah.
Inzectors. They're both utilizing that card.
Well, I think we've wrapped up pretty nicely here.
Yeah.
Talked about a lot of stuff, got a lot accomplished for our first episode. I'd like to recommend any viewers, please leave a comment telling us what you'd like to see in the future, any thoughts on this video. Probably going to post this right away to the Yu-Gi-Oh group once we get it uploaded. And I guess that's it. So,
Also post a comment where you came from. I think that we should post on TCG Player 2, and I'm going to send people over. So if we can know where we're getting people from, that'd be nice to know.
actually, I think you can check that right from YouTube, but
Oh, yeah, if it's embedded. Yeah, whatever.
right. But yeah, so all right, until next time then.